Welcome to today's edition of the Statler Financial Radio Show. Your financial security is our business. Have a question for the team? Call today, 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188.
Welcome to the Statler Financial Radio Show with President and founder of Statler Financial Services, Philip Statler. I'm Stephanie Griffin. Philip has over 2 decades of experience in the financial industry. He specializes in retirement planning, tax services, and investment management. If you would like help organizing your wealth for retirement, give Philip a call at 863-877-1188. That number again is 863-877-1188. Let's get into the show. Philip, you ready to go on this different kind of segment we have?
Yeah, this is going to be a little bit, a lot of times we save this for the end of the show,
Yes.
but I guess we're going to flip it a little bit and start out with some questions today. That's going to be interesting.
That will be interesting. We're going to do our mailbag segment right now. We call it the Statler Financial Mailbag, and we get questions each week about all things retirement. And we're going to go ahead and get started with our first question today. This is from Larry in Avon Park. I just inherited my mother's traditional IRA. I know the rules have changed recently on these, and I'm not sure what my options are. I don't need the money right now, so I'd prefer to let it grow. What do I need to know about the 10-year rule I keep hearing about? Philip.
That's a good question, Larry, because you do need to prepare. And let me just kind of lay the groundwork, right? So if you're a named beneficiary and you're not a spouse, then you have to liquidate that IRA within 10 years. And so you've got some options, right? And if your mom was taking a RMD already, required minimum distribution, then you have to continue taking a required minimum distribution every year. That obviously won't be a large number, but you do have to take at least a little bit out every year if she was already taking her required minimum distribution. So let me give you some pros and cons about waiting until the end. Yes, we want it to grow, but remember that eventually you have to take it all out and pay tax on it. And so sometimes we want to start looking at what tax bracket are you in now? What tax bracket are you going to be in 10 years? That may be an unknown and maybe a big unknown. And so as we look ahead, maybe it makes more sense to take a bigger amount out than what you originally anticipated. We don't want to get to the end of 10 years and now all of a sudden our $100,000 IRA has grown into a $300,000 or $400,000 IRA, and now we got to lump all that into 1 year. Larry, what's going to happen is you're going to end up in the 24 to 32%, maybe even a 35% tax bracket. And that won't be fun. And so it really does depend. And we do this. I have a couple of clients now that are dealing with inherited IRAs. And so one's younger. And so we are massaging the numbers to determine what years we need to take out more than in other years. And we've put together a game plan now that says, okay, if you want, you can retire early because you're going to have to take this money out anyway. And so we've put together a plan for him that says, okay, here's how we're going to take out those inherited IRAs over the next 10 years. It does take planning. I would not kick the can till the 10th year or the 9th year to take it just because of the growth. And it's going to put you in a much higher tax bracket. So let's get together and plan it. And maybe that'll make more sense for you.
I was going to say this might be a good time for Larry or anybody who has questions about things like that. They sound a little complicated. It might be a good time to call you up, I think, Philip. Definitely give him a call. Let me give you the number again, 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188, Statler Financial Services. And Kate from Sebring asked, my husband and I are financially comfortable, but our best friends are not. We love traveling with them them, but we know they can't afford the kinds of trips that we like to take. Is it okay to offer to pay for their travel, or will that just make things awkward? That's a crazy question. I've never thought about paying for somebody else, but that's great that they can afford to do that.
Yeah, and here's the deal, Stephanie. I'm not a psychiatrist. So it's like I'm not a counselor. I'm not sure how to answer that question. To be honest with you, as I look at that and listen, I think it's going to depend on your relationship,
Sure.
right? It's going to depend on your relationship. Um, how good of friends? How long have you been friends? I know I have a friend that I've been friend with forever, like since college.
Mhm.
So it's a long time. And if he offered to pay for me to go on a trip, I'd be a little uncomfortable
Sure.
with that.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think you have to look at it from that standpoint and say, how would you feel? Right?
Right. Good
Flip it.
point.
How would you feel if you really couldn't go on a trip, but they offered to pay for you to go? Maybe a once in a great while, that might be okay. Um, but I
Or
would think more than once every couple years would maybe be a little awkward for sure.
sure.
Um,
Or maybe pay for
have
one thing.
yeah, maybe just help offset some of the burden. Don't
Sure.
don't don't pay the whole trip, but maybe cover the hotel, or if you're flying somewhere, just buy the tickets type thing. So, but I think it's going to be a discussion with them to make sure you don't hurt their feelings, that they don't feel taken back. There's just a lot. That's really just a loaded question across the board, Stephanie.
A lot of depends there. It depends on a lot of different things. You're listening to the Statler Financial Radio Show with founder and president of Statler Financial, Philip Statler. I'm Stephanie Griffin, and you could give Philip a call at Statler Financial and talk to him about how to turn your retirement savings into a plan. 863-877-1188. 863-877-1188. And if you're just now tuning in, we are doing our mailbag questions from you, the listener. Mike from Lake Placid has a great question. I'm a 68-year-old widower, and I've recently met someone. We're considering getting married, but I have a significant assets and adult children, and she has her own financial life. What kind of financial conversation should we be having before getting married at this stage of life?
Well, I have a lot of clients that are in that boat, and you just need to have that conversation of how you want things arranged. I can give you different scenarios that folks have used. One of the more common things is, we have a joint checking account that each person puts money into every month, and that pays their common bills.
Right.
And if they're doing anything outside of that, then they pay for it themselves out of their money. I would definitely suggest, though, that you have each of you have a trust set up, so that, because you definitely want to keep your assets separate, other than that one joint account that you're paying joint bills out of. And it'll take some ebb and flow to get used to it. And I'm sure there'll be some uncomfortable situations that arise, but I think that's probably a starting point, to start with, so that your family doesn't feel threatened, because that happens a lot, and just kind of walk through it and take it day by day.
Yeah, I'm sure the kids would they probably have a lot of questions about things as well. So let's go to our next question. Jeff from Sebring says, I'm thinking about using some of my retirement funds to invest in a private business, a friend's startup. It feels more exciting than the stock market, and the potential returns are huge. What are the risks of moving from traditional investments to private equity like this?
Well, one concern I have is that we're taking it out of our retirement funds, which to me means it's coming out of your IRA. So that IRA, I would never ever recommend you use an IRA as the investment vehicle into a business. There's too many rules, too many regulations, and it's easy to fail. And then all of a sudden you have a disqualifying event, and all that money becomes taxable, penalties, and all kinds of stuff. So that means you're going to have to take the money out of your IRA, pay taxes on it. If it's a big chunk, well, that means more taxes you're going to have to pay, and then make the investment into the business. So the biggest drawback to me is the taxes you're going to have to pay up front to get the money out to make the investment. The other thing is you need to realize is that it may look like a good idea on paper. It may sound great, and it may be a great opportunity. But you have to realize how many small businesses fail in the first year and how many more fail in the first 5 years. And remember, this is your retirement money that I'm assuming you ultimately are going to need down the road. And so I would caution you very, very highly to think twice about it. I know it sounds exciting to be a part of a startup and get going, but there's a lot of risk there too. And you need to make sure that what you're risking, you could afford to lose it all and still be okay down the road. There's a lot in there to unpack. I really want to look more at the business. What kind of pro formas are there? There's just a lot of things you have to look at, and it's a really big different from investing in the stock market to investing in a private business like that.
Right. Well, a lot of great insight, Philip. We have one more question today. I inherited, this is from Brian in Lake Placid. I inherited an IRA from my father-in-law a few months ago, but I have no idea where to start it or what to do with it, and where do I start is his question. So yeah, that's kind of a loaded question too, I think.
It is. Yes, and we're kind of running out of time, but here quickly, it's going to be an inherited IRA. Again, based on age, I'm going to make the assumption that he may be taking his required minimum distribution, which means at a minimum, you're going to have to take your RMD, required minimum distribution, out every year. And that'll be based on your age as a single life expectancy. Not a joint life, but a single life expectancy. So that means you have to take out a little bit more than if it was joint life. That's a starting point. And then to me, it's running the analysis of taxes. When's the best time to take money out? When we look at it. But at the end of 10 years, that account has to be empty, nothing left in it. And so that's the key expiration date, if you will. We have to have everything out of it within 10 years. And so to me, it's just a planning option, right? And that really fits into what we do, though, here at Statler Financial, and that's plan. We want to help folks plan the retirement they always dreamed of. And there's some key areas that people need to look at. Risk is the first one. Taxes is the second one, because get it, folks, taxes do not go away when you retire. They become a bigger part of the planning process. And then having an income plan in place. Those are the things that we look at when we put together our core retirement design. Give us a call. Let us help you start that planning process. Our number here is 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188. I'd love to spend some time with you to make sure you're on the right path to that retirement you always dreamed of.
All right. Appreciate that, Philip. And the Statler Financial Radio Show will be right back. Turn your plans of yesterday into yes today. Don't wait another day for a routine checkup of your retirement plans. Call Statler Financial Services, 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815.
Surprise parties can be fun. Financial surprises, not so much, especially when you're retired, like finding out you owe more in taxes than you thought you would, or having to go back to work to make ends meet. Maybe you'll be okay, but why not double check just to be sure? Call Philip Statler at Statler Financial Services and schedule a no-cost retirement double check at 863-877-1188. Philip and his team have seen their fair share of surprises over the years and know how to help you avoid them. Call 863-877-1188 to schedule your no-cost retirement double check with Philip Statler at Statler Financial Services. Don't let a financial surprise derail your retirement dreams. Call 863-877-1188 now. That's 863-877-1188. You can also visit statlerfinancial.com for more info. Advisory services are offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. Time to retire right. This is the Statler Financial Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Statler Financial Radio Show with President and founder of Statler Financial Services, Philip Statler. I am Stephanie Griffin. Let's get into this a little bit on this segment. Philip, I don't know if you've ever built a house before. You never start construction without a proper foundation. Very important. Yet, surprisingly, some people approach retirement planning exactly that way, focusing on just one aspect while ignoring the crucial elements that help provide essential support and stability. So, Philip, let's talk a little bit about this. What are these essential pillars that help form the foundation of a confident retirement?
Yeah, Stephanie, let's look at that because I've never built a house. They tell me that's the one thing that will truly test your marriage is when you go to build a house. So,
it is. Speaking from experience.
So let's look at a couple things here that I think really lay kind of a foundation for our retirement. The first thing is tax efficient strategies are really often overlooked. I can't tell you, Stephanie, how many times I've sat down with folks and sometimes too late, right, to help them make a change, but they've come in and said, Philip, we want to pay off the house, or we want to pay off the car loans, or we want to take that 401k money and take a chunk out for whatever. And they don't think about the tax aspect of what that's going to cost them in taxes. So often, especially if it's in a year in which they actually retired, they've been working. And so they've got W-2 wages, and then they want to take money out of their 401k. And so now it pushes them into a new tax bracket. One of the things that we want to try to keep them out of. And so that's an area that we want to focus on when it comes to that, because there's different strategies. It's not like you have to take it all at one time. We've helped people come up with different strategies to do things like that. Doing Roth conversions. I mean, there's all kinds of strategies that you can put together that are going to help you down the road pay the least amount of taxes possible. The second one is investment management that's appropriate for retirement. Again, that's the case where in our core retirement design, we talk about the risk analysis, and that's where this plays a role, is because people are so used to saving and putting money in their 401k, and that's great. I'm so glad and thankful they do. The problem is they don't shift gears when they retire. Mm-hmm. They've stopped working, but they've left their investments the same exact way in the same growth bucket they had them while they were working. And unfortunately, their circumstances have changed significantly because they don't have a regular income coming in anymore when it comes to that job. And then the third thing that I think is important is reliable income is crucial, that you generate reliable income on a regular basis. And let's remember the three-legged stool, right? We had the first leg was a pension, which unfortunately we really don't have a lot of times anymore. The second leg was Social Security, and the third leg was your investments and what you saved. And so we really need all three of these strategies working together to put together a plan. If we're missing one of these items, it can put your entire plan at risk, Stephanie.
That's not good. So you definitely need to pay attention, and maybe even better yet, have Philip pay attention for you. He is with the Statler Financial Services, and you can give him a call. Maybe get a second opinion if you'd like to do that. 863-877-1188. That number is 863-877-1188. Now, I know that the retirement landscape has changed dramatically from what previous generations. I know my grandparents' generation a lot different than my generation. So what specific challenges, rather, would make having all three pillars so important today?
Well, I think one of the biggest ones, Stephanie, is we're living so much longer, right? You can figure that life expectancy is longer, so we're going to be living longer in retirement. So our investments, our portfolios have to last us 30 plus years. I mean, I know when we run our numbers, when we run out to age 100, we want to make sure that there's going to be something left at age 100. People say, well, I'm not going to live that long. And I get that, but there's going to be emergencies along the way that's going to take extra money out of the plan. So we want to make sure there's something left at the end when it comes to that. The other thing I think is there's fewer, like I said, fewer guaranteed pensions. We're seeing less and less in the pension world now, especially from corporate America. We've got market volatility concerns we have to deal with, the ups and downs of the market. You know, if you happen to retire and it's like in 2000, that year when the markets declined significantly, or like in 2008, we had huge bear markets, that can be devastating to your retirement. I've seen people actually put retirement on hold for a couple of years because of that. Then you've got rising healthcare costs, which we've all faced that. And then lastly, tax uncertainty with our growing national debt. Now, I will say that we've gotten a little bit of reprieve on the tax uncertainty, but it's still uncertain after 5 years, right? We've got some certainty for the next 5 years, so we need to take advantage of that, Stephanie.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about the pillars. The first pillar, specifically, the tax-efficient strategies, Philip. Why is this sometimes an overlooked aspect of retirement planning?
Well, I think one is so many people believe that their taxes are going to be lower in retirement. And that's just a myth these days based on what I see and where our current tax brackets can be down the road. You know, a lot of people, that's just not going to be the case. They've accumulated these huge IRAs, and when the tax man comes wanting their required minimum distributions, that's going to jack up their tax brackets. Also, then most retirement savings is held in tax deferred accounts, traditional IRAs, which means when you pull money out, Uncle Sam's there with his hand. He wants his part every time you pull money out of that account. And then I think a lot of people forget that Social Security is taxable. You know, so many people think it's not. And there are some cases where it is not taxable, but for the most of us out there, it is or will be taxable. Up to 85% can be taxable. I mean, people don't realize that. And then I think the last thing is that people mistakenly assume that nothing can be done with their, you know, their tax strategies, or there's nothing they can do different. And that's just not the case. There's a lot of things that we can do when it comes to tax planning. And so sometimes it's better to pay a little tax today to lessen the amount of tax we may have to pay down the road. And again, that's why I create my core retirement design. You know, the middle part of that design part is designing, you know, the most efficient tax strategy you can. Give us a call at 863-877-1180 to schedule your core retirement analysis.
Well, maybe you're out today shopping, getting ready to shop in downtown Lake Placid, or you are maybe just listening to the show, hanging out at home, drinking coffee, whatever. And maybe you are putting off your financial planning. We would love you to give Philip Statler and his team a call. You are listening to the Statler Financial Radio Show. Pick up that phone right now, 863-877-1188, 863-877-1188, or you can even go online at statlerfinancial.com. We are talking about the 3 pillars of retirement. And Philip, how do you help people evaluate the strength of each pillar in their current plan?
Well, I think what we do is we look at each area. You know, we look at the risk, which is what causes volatility in their portfolios. And so we want to measure that risk, and we want to reduce the volatility that they may experience within their portfolio. Secondly, we're going to put together, a tax plan for them. We're going to look to see what plan do they currently have for taxes. When I sit down with most people, they don't have a plan for their taxes. They say, well, my CPA takes care of that, or my tax guy takes care of that. And so I don't have, much of a plan. I take him the stuff and get my taxes done. Folks, you need to have a tax plan in place. How can you pay the least amount of taxes for you, your spouse, your beneficiaries? What can you do to reduce your total tax impact? I think that's important. And then, of course, lastly, is you got to have income. I mean, that's the whole thing when it comes to retirement planning, is you got to have income, consistent income coming in that's going to last your entire lifetime. And that's a big deal. We need to have confidence that the income we have coming in is going to last as long as we need it to. And so I think that's, those are the pillars we need to make sure we've got firmly grounded into our circumstances.
Seems like there's a lot more challenges these days that retirees are facing. You probably agree with me on that, Philip. What would you say to someone who wants to help make sure their retirement foundation is solid?
Absolutely. And one of the biggest challenges, Stephanie, that we don't talk about as often. I mean, we've talked about it on several shows, but it doesn't, take a whole show a lot of times to talk about inflation. But, inflation that we've had the last, 3 or 4 years has just been nothing. I mean, you got to go back to the 70s to see the kind of inflation that we're having right now or have had. And so that has really knocked retirees back a little bit because everything's going up. And so I think that's an area that we need to make sure that we've got a solid income foundation. I mean, that needs to be a true foundational part of your retirement plan, is that income, because we need that income to get us through the rest of our lives. Again, our core retirement design is great for that because we cover those 3 key aspects for you. We look at the risk in your portfolio. What that really means to you is, what's the volatility going to look like? What are the swings going to look like in my portfolio based on my current portfolio versus what I should have? Secondly is taxes. We want to put you in the best tax situation you can be in. And then we need to create income for you so that you've got the income you're going to need month in and month out. That's our core retirement design. I'd love to discuss it with you. Give us a call at 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188.
And you can also text VISIT to that same number as well to get your free consultation, 863-877-1188. Coming up next, we'll explore why the investment strategies that help you build wealth during your working years might not be the best approach for retirement. Make sure you stay tuned. We've got the Statler Financial Radio Show. We'll be right back.
Needing a second opinion on your retirement plan or to see if you're paying more than your fair share to Uncle Sam? Schedule your complimentary visit today. Text VISIT to 863-877-1188. That's VISIT to 863-877-1188.
Surprise parties can be fun. Financial surprises, not so much, especially when you're retired, like finding out you owe more in taxes than you thought you would, or having to go back to work to make ends meet. Maybe you'll be okay, but why not double check just to be sure? Call Philip Statler at Statler Financial Services and schedule a no-cost retirement double check at 863-877-1188. Philip and his team have seen their fair share of surprises over the years and know how to help you avoid them. Call 863-877-1188 to schedule your no-cost retirement double check with Philip Statler at Statler Financial Services. Don't let a financial surprise derail your retirement dreams. Call 863-877-1188 now. That's 863-877-1188. You can also visit StatlerFinancial.com for more info. Advisory services are offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.
Welcome back back to the Statler Financial Radio Show with President of Statler Financial, Philip Statler. Most of us spend decades focusing on growing our retirement savings, but managing this money in retirement requires a very different approach. So, Philip, why is it important to reassess investment strategies as people near retirement?
Well, I think one thing is that your focus has to shift from accumulation to distribution. And what that means, Stephanie, is that, for all those years while you're working, you've been accumulating, dumping money into the 401k, dumping money into investments, and watching them grow. Well, once you kind of switch the switch and now I'm going to be retired, now it's going to reverse. Instead of putting money in, we're going to start taking money out. And so, we want to make sure that we've got a plan in place that's going to support distribution now, because it is a different mindset, it is a different philosophy, and it is a different way to invest than when you're trying to accumulate assets for retirement. During the distribution phase, it's a totally different game. The other thing we have to look out for is market risk and volatility. They can have a pronounced impact when taking withdrawals for income. If you're taking money out and the market's going down, then every time you take money out, you're losing money. And that can be devastating to any kind of income plan or portfolio that's in place. That's why it's important that you have different buckets and that you've got different ways to diversify. If you listen to my show much at all, you know that to me, the first avenue of diversification is how much do you have market risk and how much do you have principal protected. Those are the first avenues of diversification. Before you start that pie chart, you need to make that decision. The other thing I think people don't quite get is that the older we are, the less time we have to wait out the market declines. It averages, I go back and look at 2000 and look at 2008. And in both those cases, if you had a well-rounded portfolio, it took anywhere from 4 to 6 years just to get back to even in those bear markets. You need to balance growth with preservation, like I just said. And then you need a reliable income stream. You have to create kind of your own pension so that you've got that coming in consistently every month.
And can you talk a little bit more about that, how retirees create reliable retirement paychecks from their savings?
Absolutely. We have multiple areas of income sources, right? We need to create that and coordinate that. So Social Security is, most everybody going to get Social Security. Some people have a pension. And between those are sources of income we're going to have coming in. But we're going to be spending money, and typically people are going to have a shortfall. So we have to create a plan to compensate for that shortcome. How can you do that? There's different ways to do that, right? There's some annuities that help out. There's having a good income portfolio that's going to create consistent income on a regular basis. So there's ways to do that. But one of the things that we need to look at in that process is make sure that we are strategically timing our Social Security. We need to look at that. When is the best time for you to take your Social Security? Because when you need to take yours is not necessarily when I need to take mine, right? So we need to make sure that we have a plan in place. When is the best time to take your Social Security? Investment strategies. What do we need? How do we need to invest? Everybody needs some growth in their portfolio. I get that all the time. Well, Philip, I'm too old. I don't need any market exposure. Well, I tell people, look, even my 90-year-old clients need a little bit of market exposure to help keep up with inflation and to really help buoy up everything when times are good. And then we need to have some income options available. You got to plan for inflation. We've had 4 years of rough inflation, and that's really the first inflation that's been high in a long time. For a lot of people, it's the first time they've seen this kind of inflation at all. And so But we need to remember that. We need to plan for that, Stephanie.
That's right. Definitely do that planning for sure. 863-877-1188 to talk to Philip Statler and his team at Statler Financial Services. That number again, and I will give it to you, but you can also text the word visit to this number as well. 863-877-1188. Give Philip and his team a call. Now, we're not sure when things will happen, when your life will come to an end. We don't have an expiration date on us, which makes retirement planning particularly challenging for us. So how do you help people ensure their money will last as long as they do?
Well, I think starting by creating that written retirement income plan. Statistically, Stephanie, only 30% of the folks out there have any kind of retirement income plan. And even the ones they have are in their head and not on paper a lot of times. So we need to have a written retirement income plan, a playbook to follow as we head into retirement. We need to know the amount that you're going to need in retirement. What's that paycheck need to look like? How much are we going to need to pull out of our investments on a monthly basis to fill that gap between Social Security and your pension and expenses? That we got to fill that gap. We need to identify the sources of income that you have. Most people are going to have Social Security. Some people are going to have pension. There's some folks out there that have some rental homes that are going to create some passive income for them. So we have to identify what those sources of income are and to build that plan and put it together. Build some inflation preservation, and that's where, market comes into play. And then we have to regularly monitor everything, make adjustments so that we avoid the big surprises down the road. All this can be accomplished through our core retirement design. Give us a call at 863-877-1188. Spend 30 minutes with me on the phone to make sure that you're on the path to the retirement you always dreamed of. That number again is 863-877-1188.
I'm sure a lot of people don't know where to start. So how do you, Philip, how do you as an advisor, how do you help somebody develop a plan?
Well, we start at the beginning, right? We look at what are their goals, what do they want to accomplish in retirement? And we help them walk through that. Then the first step is the hardest step, right? What are we going to have to spend? What do we want to spend in retirement? What does that look like? And then we develop a plan around that. What's that going to look like? And what's the tax implications of that plan? And have we built that in as an expense on the other side? And are there ways that we can work together to keep you in that 12% tax bracket instead of the 22% tax bracket or the 24% tax bracket? What things can we do to help you stay and pay the least amount of taxes? And I think, that the whole income planning process really adds some confidence in folks' retirement, because heading into retirement, there's a lot of uncertainty, and we want to make sure we build a plan to take out as much of that uncertainty as we can. And that's really where we kind of start at, Stephanie.
Well, if you already have a retirement plan in place, why is getting a second opinion so important?
Well, because what I've seen in the past is that retirement plan is really, I call the junk drawer approach. I open the junk drawer at my kitchen, and there's a lot of good stuff in there. There's a lot of neat things that I may need at some point in time. And a lot of folks, that's the way they've set up their retirement. They've got a lot of accounts, and they're good accounts. But they don't really have a plan on how they're going to access those accounts. They may need some money this month. They'll take it from this account. They're going to go on vacation. They're going to take a long road trip. I'm going to take some money out of this account. But there's no consistent plan in place. And that's really where getting that second opinion, looking over your existing plan with a new set of eyes can really open up the options that are available to make sure that one, you're not going to run out of money. Two, that you're going to pay the least amount of taxes possible, not just today. Remember, sometimes it's better to pay a little tax today so we don't have to pay a lot of tax down the road. Those are things that we look at when we're, assessing a plan that's already in place, because those are the things that we make sure we put in our plans when we sit down with folks. So I think that's the key, Stephanie, and all that's built into our core retirement design. Folks, I know we hammer hard on that, but really and truly, I developed it because of what I saw out there when I would sit down with clients and what they had done. And I saw where they had some shortcomings. And so that's where we developed this core retirement design to fill the gap, to look at what does risk look like in your portfolio? What do taxes look like coming down the road? And remember, when a spouse passes away, your tax bill goes up on the same income you have coming in. And we want to make sure that we've got a plan in place to deal with that as well. Give us a call, 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188. I'd love to spend a half hour with you on the phone to make sure that you're on the right path to the retirement you dreamed of.
If you are in and around the Sebring area, call Philip and his team and talk about your retirement. Let him know you need help. I mean, if you need help, it's nothing to be ashamed of. Definitely give him a call and ask questions. He'd love to answer them for you. 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188. Or you can text the word VISIT to that same phone number. You are listening to the Statler Financial Radio Show, and we will be right back.
Surprise parties can be fun.
Surprise!
Financial surprises, not so much, especially when you're retired, like finding out you owe more in taxes than you thought you would, or having to go back to work to make ends meet. Maybe you'll be okay, but why not double check just to be sure? Call Philip Statler at Statler Financial Services and schedule a no-cost retirement double check at 863-877-1188. Philip and his team have seen their fair share of surprises over the years and know how to help you avoid them. Call 863-877-1188 to schedule your no-cost retirement double check with Philip Statler at Statler Financial Services. Don't let a financial surprise derail your retirement dreams. Call 863-877-1188 now. That's 863-877-1188. You can also visit StatlerFinancial.com for more info. Advisory services are offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
Welcome back to the Statler Financial Radio Show with founder of Statler Financial, Philip Statler, and we really appreciate you tuning in today. I'm Stephanie Griffin. We are getting ready to put Philip in the hot seat. We've got pressing questions from you, the listener, and we appreciate you letting us know any questions you may have. You can definitely email, go online, call, whatever you'd like to do, and we will ask Philip these. Are you ready to go, Philip?
I guess I'm as ready as I'm going to be, Stephanie.
I know you'll do great on this. Okay, Philip, first question. How can I help make sure my savings last through my entire retirement?
I think that is a good question, and I wish more people would think about that when they head into retirement. It's having a written retirement income plan in place. If it's in writing, it's more likely going to happen that way, as opposed to what I call shooting from the hip. Having that plan gives you more confidence in your retirement outlook. And I've seen people enjoy their retirement. It takes that uncertainty out and just gives them a better perspective on retirement as a whole.
What strategies can help me deal with market downturns when I'm retired?
Well, let's talk about strategies and downturns in the market. If you listen to my show much at all, you know that I'm a big believer when it comes to diversification. And not just the pie chart that you see on your statement. The first round of diversification needs to be that diversification between what is protected, meaning it cannot go down in value, versus market risk in the stock market. We need both. The question is, how much do we need in both? And that comes down to a couple factors. One that I like to look at is what we call the rule of 100. Minus your age from 100. That is a rough amount of what you should have at risk. So if you're 90 years old, that's going to leave you 10, right?
Right.
So 10% is what you would want invested in the market. Now that's just a starting point. For some people, it may be more. For some people, it may be less, depending upon their outlook and what their risk tolerance is as a whole. But first, everybody has to make that first determination. What percentage do I want safe? What percentage do I want in the market?
Now, life is about balance, I guess. So, Philip, what are some ways to balance growth and preservation in my portfolio?
Again, it comes down to everybody's different, right? How much growth they can handle. I recently had a conversation with a client who is getting close to that required minimum distribution phase of her life next year. And she said, Phil, I don't need the money. So what are we going to do with that money? I said, well, we'll open another account and we'll put it into that account. She says, I don't need it. So I think for that bucket of money, we can be a little bit more aggressive with that bucket of money because I wasn't planning on having it anyway. So it depends on everybody's different. And so it depends on their outlook and their current circumstances as to what that looks like. But initially, right, we're going to look at that rule of 100 as a starting point. And it may be, hey, you're 65 years old. That means maybe 35% should be in the market. But that's like I said, it's not a hard and fast number. Maybe, because of your risk tolerance, it shouldn't be 35. Maybe for you, it needs to be 45 or 50%. And so everybody's different. And so we don't pigeonhole anybody. We're going to walk through our process to determine what that number should be for them based on their values and based on their risk tolerance. Again, Stephanie, that's all kind of what we build in to our core retirement design because we want people to really be able to focus on their retirement and have that retirement they always dreamed of. Folks, to get started, it's simple. Give us a call, 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188 to spend 30 minutes with me to get all your questions answered.
And you can also text VISIT for that free consultation as well to that same number, 863-877-1188. And you are listening to the Statler Financial Radio Show. We're going to take a few minutes. It's our lightning round, and we're going to help probably me more than some of your listeners to get to know you a little bit better. You have 2 minutes, and I want you to answer as many questions as you can. We're doing Think Fast. Are you ready for this? We're going to start the time.
Yes, I'm as ready as I'm going to be.
Okay, well, let's see what we have for you here. First question, what's the best vacation you've ever taken?
Yeah, Stephanie, I've been fortunate. I've had some great vacations, but the one that really sets me apart was the second time we went to Hawaii. We were able to bring our kids. And so our kids came over, and then I had an uncle and a cousin that met us over there. And so we spent about 10 days with everybody. My kids were there for about 2 weeks total. And then we sent them away. And then Joyce and I had a event to go to where we spent another 5 days. So that was probably my best because it was really the first big vacation I was able to take my kids on.
That is so nice. And it's beautiful there. I've been there and it's just lovely. It's very pretty. Yeah. What food could you eat every single day? That's a hard one.
This may sound a little bit different, but if it's the right coleslaw, I can eat coleslaw probably every day.
Really? I don't think I've heard that answer before. Somebody must make some really good coleslaw. Does your wife make coleslaw? Is she the one?
My grandmother, she does, but my grandmother made the best coleslaw.
I love that. Are you an early bird or a night owl?
I have become an early bird.
Yeah. This is a bonus question. Do you drink coffee when you get up in the morning?
I do. Actually, my coffee pot is programmed for 4:10 every morning.
Oh, wow.
And I get up between 4:30 and 5 every morning.
Good for you. Good for you. I like that. You got to get your day started. What is your favorite movie quote?
I don't have one.
You don't have one?
No, sorry to disappoint you.
That's all right. All right. What's one piece of advice you'd give your younger self? That's a great question.
It is. And I think that would be, hey, whatever you do, you never fail.
Very nice.
You just have to keep trying new ideas to get to where you want to be.
I love that. That's really great. I think we all need advice when we're younger from our older selves. I think that's a great thing. What app on your phone gets the most use?
I'm embarrassed to say this, but I think according to my phone, which tells me every week, social media. So pretty much Facebook, unfortunately, gets probably the most that it shouldn't. I really need to delete that app, but
I think we're everybody in our age category looks at that pretty much every day. So you're not the only one. What's your favorite holiday?
I think my favorite holiday is Thanksgiving. I have great memories of both Thanksgiving and Christmas. But Thanksgiving was, I was born in Missouri. And so a lot of times, I've lived here since I was 8, but a lot of times we would go back to Missouri for Thanksgiving. And that was when all my cousins would all be there and we'd all just have a great time.
A lot of good memories, it sounds like. What job did you want to have as a kid?
I wanted to be a veterinarian.
Awesome.
I didn't like to study. So.
That's funny. So that didn't work, and you changed your mind and decided to become a financial advisor.
So then I wanted to be an attorney, but I didn't want to go to school that long. So I settled on being an accountant, and so that's then I morphed into the whole planning process.
Go-to karaoke song, or do you have one? Do you like to karaoke?
I don't have one.
You don't have one?
I'm not really care. I can't remember. I think I may have karaoke one time in my lifetime.
Okay, well, I'm going to change that question up then. What is your favorite generation of music? You like the 70s? You like the 80s? What do you like?
I like the 60s and 70s. You know, when I listened to Sirius radio, it's pretty much on the 70s.
Yep, I knew I liked you for a reason, Philip. What's your favorite way to unwind after a long day?
I am, because I get up so early. By the time I come home, I'm really, especially if it's a work day, I've poured a lot of myself into my clients, making sure and helping them do what needs to happen. So at the end of the day, I'm usually pretty wore out, and I will veg out on the couch and listen to the news. If I'm not barbecuing, a lot of times I'm doing barbecuing. Yeah, I probably barbecue a couple times a week.
Wow. Well, that was a lot. I really enjoyed getting to know you better. Thank you for doing that for us. That was a lot of fun. Thank you for taking time, and make sure you give Philip a call and his team at Statler Financial Radio Show, 863-877-1188, 863-877-1188. And we will be back next week with Philip on the Statler Financial Radio Show.
Advisory services offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, a SEC-registered investment advisor. The opinions voiced and information provided in this material are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine what investments are appropriate for you, please consult with a financial advisor. Second Half Financial Partners, LLC does not provide tax or legal advice. Please consult your tax or legal advisor regarding your particular situation. This radio show is a paid placement.